Meghan Markle's recent foray into the luxury goods market with her as ever brand, specifically her peppermint tea, has been met with widespread ridicule and criticism. The author argues that this latest product launch underscores Markle's persistent attempts to emulate royal prestige, even while lacking the genuine lineage and quality to support such aspirations. The overall tone is highly satirical and critical, emphasizing the perceived disconnect between Markle's ambitions and the actual product. The introduction immediately establishes a sarcastic tone, suggesting that Markle's attempts to cosplay royalty are ongoing and have reached a new, hilariously misguided level with the launch of her peppermint tea. The author uses the moniker Duchess of Desperation to emphasize Markle's perceived desperation to maintain a connection to her former royal status and the lengths she will go to achieve this. The choice of peppermint tea as the focus of this attempt is presented as particularly ironic and absurd. The author then proceeds to critique the tea itself, focusing on its purportedly bland and uninspired taste. Taste testers' descriptions of the tea as tasting like beige air and regret and having oatmeal-colored sweater vibes are used to highlight the product's perceived lack of quality and appeal. The connection to an oatmeal-colored sweater, which Markle reportedly wears in her Netflix show while promoting the tea, further emphasizes the perceived lack of sophistication and the overall underwhelming nature of the product. The author also points out the lack of transparency surrounding the product's profit margins, suggesting that Markle's financial motivations are paramount. A significant portion of the critique centers on the comparison between Markle's tea and King Charles III highgroove tea. Markle's decision to price her tea similarly to highgroves is presented as a calculated attempt to leverage the perceived prestige of the royal brand without possessing the actual royal lineage. The author suggests that this pricing strategy reflects Markle's unwillingness to be perceived as slumming it with the peasants, highlighting her desire to maintain a sense of exclusivity and luxury. The author uses the phrase "classic Meghan" to describe this strategy, implying a pattern of behavior. The author then dissects the packaging of the tea, drawing a stark contrast between the elegant and regal tin of highgroove tea and the markedly inferior packaging of Markle's product. Markle's tea tin is described as looking like something from the clearance aisle of a cruise ship gift shop, emphasizing its generic and unappealing appearance. This comparison is further reinforced by contrasting online comments about the reusability and attractiveness of highgroove's tin with a lack of positive feedback regarding Markle's packaging. The author also critiques the Teabags themselves, describing them as looking mass-produced and lacking the refined quality of highgroove's tea bags. The price point of Markle's tea is also heavily criticized, with the author highlighting the disproportionate cost of 12 tea bags, £9.30. This price is presented as exorbitant and further evidence of the product's lack of value. The author also notes the apparent imitation of highgroove's peppermint tea flavor profile, suggesting a lack of originality and a blatant attempt to ride on the success of a well-established competitor. The author uses the phrase, "mediocrity could be so expensive," to emphasize the irony of the situation. The conclusion reiterates the overall failure of Markle's attempt to create a luxury tea brand. The author emphasizes the widespread mockery and criticism surrounding the product, attributing this to the perceived inauthenticity and lack of quality. The author's sarcastic tone is maintained throughout, highlighting the perceived absurdity of Markle's efforts and the mismatch between her aspirations and the reality of her product. The final ironic compliment to Markle's unique penmanship serves as a concluding, sarcastic jab, further emphasizing the overall lack of substance in her venture. The author's consistent use of satirical language and pointed comparisons effectively conveys a highly critical perspective on Markle's product and her broader attempts to maintain a connection to royal prestige.